What's going on, everybody? It's Frito here for Your Overwatch with this week's hero ban rotation meta discussion. The bans came through last night, and the new algorithm that takes high-level competitive play as well as the Overwatch League somehow banned the new hero, which isn't even available in the Overwatch League, just to show you how much that ranked gameplay is getting biased in this new algorithm, which I think we could already tell, but with her getting zero playtime in the Overwatch League, she still caught a ban for the week. Jeff Kaplan had already commented on this on the forum, saying that, well, she'll be available again next week, but either way, kind of odd how this is playing out. In either case, let's take a look at what we've got. Orisa, Echo, Tracer, and Moira banned, so that means no bunker, and 2 flankers are gone, but with so many flanker options, I don't think it makes or breaks that playstyle, and Moira being banned is going to be quite an interesting wrinkle into all of this, because with Orisa out, that means we've either got Brawl or Dive left. And Moira was a hero that was good to stop you from getting dove, to play a more brawly, sustainy style, which means Dive will have a way to always get on healers. Even Brigitte, as strong as she is, doesn't have the free positioning escape of the likes of Moira. So with that being considered, I think Brawl and Dive might feel equally as good, at least on their best maps, but it's tough to play Dive on every map, so because of that, I think Brawl gets skewed a little bit easier, kind of similar to how Double Shield was a bit easier this past week on longer range maps, but I saw Dive just destroying teams, a big percentage of my games anyway, when it was at least attempted, though it does typically take a bit more communication to work appropriately. But let's get on to the tank picks for the week. Big Daddy Ryan is back. I had almost thought about putting Reinhardt in his own tier. The last few weeks have taught me anything, it's how strong of a pick Ryan is in the tank metagame due to how all the shielding and defenses have been dropped. Even when he doesn't have Lucio or some of his best supporting cast, he still is a very stable pick. So because of that, I would say you could play Ryan with literally any tank, which makes him the most flexible. Keep in mind, up against Dive, you'll want to structure your engagements so that you're not too forward, but instead playing on corners back with your team in close together, and then Ryan can still work. If you get separated too much and your healers get dove, they don't have a free escape anymore. It will require your leadership to structure the team fight so that you're always safe, but once you do that, Ryan's brawling strength with how much damage he does, as well as the most barrier health with a shield that can turn, it really changes the game. He's unlike any tank right now with how much tanking presence he puts out. Skipping to the middle section of the tier list, Zarya might look a little low here with Ryan being so high, but I think if we learn from the other week, Ryan doesn't really need the Zarya to do his playstyle. It does help, but just keep in mind that Zarya isn't a high tier counter pick right now, especially with some of the DPS that I think you're going to go up against. She's not bad by any means, and if you get her working, she can carry, but she won't silence the enemy DPS if they're carrying, like Sigma and Diva can. Don't undervalue how good the double barrier Ryan Sigma duo is either. That is a real obnoxious comp to deal with. It can zone out hit scans and Pharah, which are both really strong right now. Diva's more flexible with a little weaker damage in the mid fight. They're all kind of interchangeable. But sort of the side conversation to all this is the fact that if the enemy doesn't counter Dive, Winston and Ball just have their way with everyone. The game's kind of been pushed towards that direction, and although there are some decent answers left, Moira was kind of one of the best ways for your support to escape, and if you can just get on the supports now, Winston or Ball are going to work pretty well. Back on the avoid list again is Hog. So the problem with Roadhog is that he either can brawl with the team like a budget Zarya, or he can go on flanks for picks and have a solo queue play off on an island playstyle. The flanking style is actually better, and because of that, he'll look best when Lucio's out of the mix. When he was banned a couple weeks ago, Hog looked like a really viable pick, because if the enemy struggles to regroup properly or play together, Hog can really isolate his battles. But when you can speed boost characters like Ana, Reaper, and Mei, who have very easy buttons that just destroy Hog, it's hard to see why you need to pick him. And most of the time, I think if you want to carry the game and do damage yourself, just pick Zarya or Sigma, who also provide a lot of team benefit as well. So with the tank formations done in quite a diverse state, I'd say, let's move on to talking about the supports to pair with them. I think you'll want either a Brig or a Lucio basically all the time. In Brawl Mirrors, Lucio, I think, is the go-to choice, but against Dive, Brig is sort of the super-powered character that can solo counter it herself. Now, when we get to the DPS section, we're going to be really high on Pharah now, and we've yet to see Brig back with that new Pharah buff, but I think there's enough counters in the rest of the team where Brig can still counter the rest of Dive, hide from the Pharah, and let her team deal with her while providing enough benefit otherwise. But if you feel like you do have to be the one to answer the Pharah, Ana or Baptiste can help you out with that, and with Reinhardt back in the mix, Ana's controlling playstyle comes back. When Moira's in the pool, Rushdown is a little bit more about Wing past the enemy's defenses and just overwhelming them, whereas with Ana is a bit more about structuring the fight to set up for her big cooldowns. If she gets away with staying alive without being contested, she's the best character in the game. So I think especially on defenses of points, you could consider Brig with an Ana to be her bodyguard, keep the dive tanks off her, and she's gonna have a really good time, pumping resources into Rein, getting potential value on everything. But if you're struggling to stay alive as Ana, do consider going to Baptiste or Mercy. Don't underrate that Baptiste boots buff he got a couple patches ago, being able to jump up into the air vertically. Time that in with the engagement coming in on you, and you can just make most of the dive's effectiveness with. Mercy's a little lower down on the list, but I would say she's tier 1 when paired with an Ashe or a Pharah. Both those characters saw significant buffs recently, and as long as the rest of your comp can maintain itself, either by hiding while your carry DPS takes most of the duels and you just wait around to support them, or if you play Ana Mercy, which can still give a lot of healing to the front line. But I don't think Mercy's too good outside of pairing with those DPS. And unfortunately on the avoid list again is Zenyatta. And you might say, well, with Tracer out of the pool, Zenyatta should be good to go. Oh wait, that's right, there's like 5 other characters like Tracer that can just W towards him. Zen's kind of lost his place. He only really fits in a very slow double shield meta where there's just so much safety that you want to max out your firepower at range as much as you can with Bap Zen. But with the game either being divey or brawly, Zen just has no home. He's been tuned down from the days of being the 3rd support damage replacement in the GOATS era, and they never really reverted him to fit with the rest of the game. He's too exploitable in the mid fight, and his ultimate isn't as good as you might think, considering how many ways there are to outplay a lot of ults anyway. And when you have other answers like Baptiste Lamp, Sound Barrier, or Rally that can deal with a lot of ult interactions, Transcendence is like overkill for its job. Like, it'll work, but it's just inefficient over the course of multiple uses. He has big payoff, but he's just not worth the risk, which honestly is what we can say about a lot of DPS heroes most of the time. But let's take a look at what we got. I think McCree's going to be the top dog that deals with most things pretty well. He fits well in a Rein comp, he counteracts Pharah, and just can lay down the most overall DPS as well as duel above everybody. Reaper, frankly, I'm kind of bored of talking about. You guys know why he's good. He's good against dive tanks and good with or against a Mei. Just an all-around flexible character. But the Pharah buff, I think we're finally getting a week where we're going to feel the impact of it, because we both have Pharah and Mercy in the pool, which makes her way, way better. Now, she isn't so good that she's gonna hard counter Rein comps or anything, but remember, AoE healing is gone, and one area that I really find that the Pharah buff makes an impact is pressuring down supports, because it used to be where you basically had to direct them to find a kill, whereas now with the 80 damage splash you can 3-shot them without even directing them, which means that the balance of the interaction between like Baptiste, Ana, and a lot of hit scans for that matter go into the Pharah's favor, because the shots she has to make a meaningful impact have just been widened with both the fire rate of the rework as well as the splash damage of the OG Pharah. The only thing keeping this in check though is the fact that D.Va and Sigma are both pretty good. If you're really struggling against Pharah, play both of them, I'd say, or Winston is pretty good as well for giving you vertical coverage. The tanks are still powerful enough to deal with her at a high level, but if they don't, the supports and DPS can kind of have a bad time. Granted, there are a lot of hit scans in the pool that are all pretty good, but with all of the maps back, there's just tons of vertical cover maps that Pharah can use at any given point. And if there's vertical cover, well, hit scans are irrelevant. Now on to Mei. Oh, Mei. I think they buffed her. Yep, that's right. In the previous patch, they made it so that her freeze ray would be less efficient ammo-wise than her ult fire, and they give her more ult fire shots before she has to reload. You might be thinking, oh, well, that's a nerf, right? It takes more skill to play her. I mean, kind of. The problem is, if you were freezing something, it should have been around your team anyway, and they always were the ones to follow up the damage. So yes, there are some cases where you're one-on-one with a target and maybe you run out of ammo and can't finish it, but I don't don't think that's ever the case. The ammo rework for Mei made her better at poke and not bad enough at her helping the team focus fire with freeze job to overall, to me, I think she's buffed from that version. She's got more ammo to spam to farm up Blizzard faster. And yes, she has received a lot of nerfs to the wall. It's a lot harder to use, but I think you'll find with a Rhine on your team, dividing and conquering and controlling the fight with Mei is going to be incredibly strong. Yes, Pharah can counter her, but aside from that, not many things can confidently other than Reaper, at least on paper without a bunch of skill added in. Like if you headshot her, great, but when she plays smart, she just does a ton. I'd say Torb's in a similar boat, maybe a bit more map specific. You can't put turrets out in the open for Pharah to spam, but other than that, he's quite an effective brawler. Otherwise, down at the top of tier 2, I am going to have Genji and Doomfist, who with Moira gone, definitely can outplay a lot of the backline characters that are left. But between McCree, Reaper, and Mei, both of them can have some trouble. It's going to depend on if you're getting countered or not. But with Moira gone, there isn't that easy answer for you to just swap to without a lot of effort to counteract them when they're playing well. So if you're good at them, there's a chance this could be a good week for you. Otherwise, poke and spam heroes are lower down the list just because they're too slow. There's not a lot of time to set up for spam to get working unless you're playing against a really indecisive team. If they play slow enough for your damage to land on Hanzo and Junkrat, that's fine, but picking a direction and going with Reaper, Mei, McCree should just work most of the time. And if you wanted to spam anyway, Pharah either beats you or does it better. On the avoid list, for similar reasons, Symmetra, Bastion, and Sombra. Sombra's the most viable of the three, however, also is kind of slow. Whatever you're looking to play her to counter, you likely can do the same thing with Reaper or Mei, while also having a bit more damage and being able to hold your ground a bit better without having to skirt away and run away. With Pharah getting buffed to the degree she is, we're unlikely to see Bastion or Symmetra to be super high in these tier lists until there's a major patch to swing things around. But with that being said, that's the entire hero cast. Let me know how this week's games are treating you. If you enjoyed the video, please be sure to leave it a like. It really does help us out and lets us know that you're enjoying the content. And if you haven't already, hit subscribe and hit the bell icon to actually get notified when our videos go live. Link to the description is our Twitter, where we tweet out news updates and dank memes. That's been it for me. I've been Frito for Your Overwatch. We'll see you guys next time.